Hi, welcome to episode 83 of Talk About the Passion. I'm your host, Christian Campagna, and my guest today is Drew Stone. As I just said, the name of this podcast is Talk About the Passion, and my guest today has a number of passions. Film director, producer, editor, musician. He was the co-founder and lead singer of the hardcore bands The Mighty COs while living in Boston, and The High and Mighty from New York, and of course the frontman of New York City's Antidote since 1984. His video series, the New York Hardcore Chronicles, is one of my favorite things to watch, as Drew interviews anyone from the New York hardcore scene you can think of, and beyond, not just New York hardcore, as the title suggests. He did a great episode with Brian Baker that was amazing. He's had people like Scott Ian and Frank Bello from Anthrax to Sab Gray from Iron Cross. Old Boston friends like John Socks, Mike Gitter, and of course Al Baril. So yeah, here is, all of this punk and hardcore stuff, but did you know Drew was a fan of the Grateful Dead? Well, on today's episode, Drew talks about this side of his life, and as he says at the beginning and end of the episode, he's never really been interviewed about this, so it was cool to have him on to talk about this. And for your listeners who aren't fans of the Dead, this isn't exclusively Grateful Dead talk, but more a timeline covering his early days of seeing the band to moving up to Boston and seeing hardcore shows as that scene was being created in Boston at places like Media Workshop and Gallery East. There's a great picture of SSD on stage, and Drew is in between Al and Jamie, launching himself off of the drum riser. His passion for music and just storytelling ability and sense of humor, make this story just much more fascinating. And, we get into what it's like to exist in both worlds as, a hardcore kid and a deadhead, and, the ball busting that takes place between, both camps there. And, he gets into how, touring with the Grateful Dead early on became useful later in life, managing touring hardcore bands. And as a fan of his New York Hardcore Chronicles video show, it was definitely fun to do this over Zoom, which, although I'm just releasing the audio of this, we had the, split screen going, like, just like on his show. It's the little things like that bring joy to my life, as does, me wanting you to listen to this, so I'll shut up now. Before that, though, I'm on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, and I update those regularly. If you want to contact me about anything, I'm always looking for new guests or topic ideas. Shoot me a message on one of those sites. If you like what you hear, please give a like and a follow and maybe even a review. I'm on iTunes and Spotify and everywhere else you listen to podcasts. Okay, then, here we go with episode 83 with Drew Stone. Thanks for listening. So I'm here with Drew Stone, director, musician, interviewer, podcaster, YouTuber. I'm usually watching you here, and you're usually interviewing someone from New York hardcore or
it's a little different.
Yeah. So, but today we were going to do something a little different and talk
about it.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard. I don't know how I found out you were into the Grateful Dead, but I was surprised. I mean, you're always kind of happily surprised when you find someone from the scene is into it. So
this is definitely different for me. It's I do a show that's primarily hardcore, and, hardcore and metal and stuff like that, and so. But we do talk once in a while. The Grateful Dead come up on my show, and people are like, "Oh God, not again!" Like, "Oh no,"
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be cool.
Yeah,
so there you go.
So you grew up you're born in Queens. Grew up in Queens?
No, I was born in Queens, New York, in Forest Hills. I lived there for a couple years, and then I spent my younger years there in growing up in Manhattan, in Yorkville, and then I moved up to the Bronx, to the Spite and Dival section of the Bronx, where I basically lived my teenage years.
Yeah. So music does music find you up there?
Well, music. Well, my dad was a film director. So I kind of grew up in that environment of the film business somewhat, but there wasn't a lot of music in my home per se. But of course, I grew up in the 70s, and there was a lot of radios back then, and FM radio, and all that, just, you think about, those summers back then in the 70s, like there were certain songs that were like, what they say, songs for the summer or whatever, which I'm sure younger people today have that. But back then there were so many summers that were identified with, you know, hits of the summer. You hear it constantly.
Yeah.
So I grew up on FM radio.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then of course, music. Growing up in the Bronx, I just fell in with the crowd. I was, a young sort of juvenile delinquent that spent a lot of time in the streets hanging out. My parents were divorced. I grew up in a, pretty much single parent household, and I had a lot of freedom. I was out a lot, hanging out in the street a lot. And I grew up, like I said, in New York City in the 70s. So when I was sort of coming of age as a young teenager, it was like Frampton Comes Alive and Bad Company and the Allman Brothers. And this is the stuff that I was exposed to, and I just loved music early on. I loved just the whole culture. So I loved music, and I was just enamored by the whole thing. And of course, back then you had albums and you had album artwork that these things were exciting for a young teenager. And you go to the record store and you pore over the album art and look for the clues and connect the dots between this and that. And I think that for me, like I said, being a young teenager and probably smoking pot and getting into other drugs was a gateway for music in a very big way. Sadly, in a certain regard, growing up in those sort of mid to late 70s, hanging out in the streets, recreational drugs and certain types of music were associated with that sort of behavior. So that's why I think, I gravitated to the Rolling Stones and the Who and, the Allman Brothers Band and Frank Zappa. And of course, eventually the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man.
So all that stuff is found then before punk rock for you anyway, because it was sort of around before that anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, well, punk rock came a little bit later, came later on for me. When I went to college, I went to Emerson College in Boston to study acting. And as a freshman, as soon as I got there, I got exposed to the whole hardcore thing. But I actually had a whole career before then with the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. So going back a little, your first time seeing the Grateful Dead.
So the first time I saw the Grateful Dead was when I was 15 years old, September 2nd, 1978 at Giants Stadium in Jersey. And that was with Willie Nelson and the New Rise of the Purple Sage opened. Right. And like I said, I was 15. Yeah. And, it was a happening. It was like, you go with your 15-year-old friends, you freaking smoke pot, you do this. It was an exciting day at the big rock concert, And it was 1978 Grateful Dead, and it was with Keith and Donna. Yeah. And I didn't, of course, at the time, I didn't particularly understand exactly what I was seeing. Right. But I knew it was cool, and I could, and you could dance to it. Yeah. So there you go. But so that was I was 15, so, and then, after that, I saw them a couple more times. I saw them a couple of times with Keith and Donna. I saw them they played Madison Square Garden in 1979 twice with Keith and Donna. Then they left the band. Brent Midland joined the band. They came back in 79 and I saw those 3 shows.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I saw a bunch of shows pretty early on there, and some of them were they were great, and I think early on that 70, we're talking 79, 80, 81, I must say, certainly in retrospect, like now that I have a pretty good grasp of the Grateful Dead's overall career, what they did, how they played, what the ups and downs were. I must say, at listening to that stuff from back then, they were still really pretty damn good.
Oh yeah, 78's great.
Definitely. 78, 79, and 80. But I will say that my coming out party, so to speak, when I really got it was in 1980. I was going to high school in Manhattan, and the word was they're putting tickets on sale for Radio City Music Hall. And so I came down I went home from school on a Friday. I took the number 1 train up to where I lived in the Bronx, got a couple of my friends, and we came back down that Friday, like at the end of the day. And we got online at Radio City Music Hall. And if I remember correctly, I think we were number maybe 34 or 4, either 14 or 34 for some reason. I don't think it was 14. It might have been 34. And so we got online on a Friday night. The whole line started stretching down the block. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, tickets went on sale Monday morning, if I remember correctly. And it was like an adventure. Like we lived online. Everybody. I think we were tripping one night, and it was like, and tickets went on sale, and I got tickets for 7 of the 8 nights at Radio City, all incredibly good tickets, literally first couple of rows, dead center. So every night I went, I was within the first couple of rows, and and that's when they played acoustic. The Dead played acoustic at those.
Yeah, the Reckoning.
Yeah, they did the Reckoning from that, and I must say, I think the first 100 times I saw the Grateful Dead, I was under the influence of psychedelics.
Right.
Literally, I'm not exaggerating. I'm pretty sure the first 100 Grateful Dead shows I saw, I was under the influence of psychedelics, and so I went night after night and saw them very up close, and it was like a real game changer. And I think a lot of it was because what they were doing at the time with the acoustic stuff, it reverberated and resonated with me for many years after. As going into my adulthood, I developed a comprehension as to what they were doing, and like I said, I knew I was seeing something great.
Oh yeah.
I was young and I didn't really understand all of it.
Yeah.
But I was tripping my face off, so I understood a lot of it.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Right. I understood a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
But those were really landmark shows for me, because they really opened up a door to me, which in retrospect, it was Americana, and hey, what are these songs, and where do these songs come from? And that led me sort of looking back to discovering a lot of these artists, oh wow, who did, On the Road Again. Oh wow, who did Ain't No Lie, Elizabeth Cotton. oh wow this, oh wow that, and Monkey the Engineer, and wow, and so which led me to artists like Woody Guthrie, and
Yeah.
and really Americana,
Yeah. And that was the last time they played acoustic, was those shows, or the Wharf, or whatever came second, that tour or whatever.
Pretty much. And then the record came out, and there were songs on the record that we were there for. I felt very connected to it. And
the movie,
like I said, and the Halloween special that they did, and like I said, I was there so close. I mean, I had all kinds of memories and stuff of you're making eye contact with the band. I mean, you're that close. And this is 1980, and this is before sort of like these big sort of separation between the audience. Like first row at Radio City was right against the stage.
Yeah. So Jerry's right there in front of you.
Like, wow, like total eye contact.
So how are Deadheads in New York City around that era of 1980?
Really passionate.
Yeah.
Really passionate. And the Dead always got it up for New York City. Like, I mean, I think they always looked forward to playing New York. Of course, that goes way back to the 60s when they would play, Fillmore East or Cafe A Go Go or whatever. But New York City always, has this incredible energy, and and the thing about being into the Grateful Dead back then, and being in the tri-state area, is you could see a lot of shows.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Yeah,
because
being up here, yeah. Most of my shows were Jersey and New York.
I mean, they'd come to town and they'd be like, oh, they play Brenda Byrne Arena in New Jersey, or they play Madison Square Garden, or they play, the Nassau Coliseum. And then the next night would be the New Haven Coliseum, or the Hartford Civic Center, or the Philly Spectrum. So like you could, I racked up a lot of shows from just, they're coming East Coast, cool, boom, 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 So yeah.
Now, did you have a core group of friends? Like, did you have someone that got you, like, at one point was like, you got to check out the Grateful Dead?
No, not that I remember.
Yeah, just kind of.
I know who I went to my first show with, but
yeah,
it was like I was 15 and just some friends from the neighborhood. But eventually, when I started, you also friendships were made back then as a young teenager, waiting online for tickets. I met a bunch of people. Some I'm still very close with to this day. These are the bonds you form, and so I'm sure we'll get into it goes the same with hardcore.
Yeah, exactly.
The bonds you made going to that hardcore shows. It's all connected. It's community and culture.
Yeah. What's more appealing to the Dead to you? Is it the mostly the music and but that community and friendship as well? Is that?
Well, yeah. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of separation for me, whether we're talking about Grateful Dead, their music in the community, or hardcore punk rock and the music in the community. It's really to me it's the same thing, really, in a certain way. It's the same kind of thing. Like I said, it's community and culture. It's the culture of the whole thing as well. So it's hard. That's why I always found it really hard to be like, well, you got to listen to this,
right?
Hey, listen to Minor Threat,
right?
And people would listen to be like, whoa. But or listen to the Grateful Dead. It's almost like it's only like a part of
this whole thing. Yeah.
The whole thing,
Yeah.
I don't think it translated well to just in one regard.
Yeah, I think one of the main differences too is the Grateful Dead are you're not going to see Bob Weir after the show walking through the parking lot, but if you go see Slapshot, you're going to see Choke standing at the merch table after the show.
Well, that was part of the allure of when I got into hardcore. I mean, what happened was at the end of the summer of 1981, and by the time by the time I went to college up in Boston, when I saw my first hardcore show in Boston, the summer of 1981, I had already seen 31 Grateful Dead shows.
Okay.
So I had 31 shows.
Yeah.
You know, and that whole bit, for a couple years already, I saw some real great, real epics. A couple, you know, and the Radio City run, and there was a couple others that were just, woo, you know. So I went up in '81, and I went to Emerson College, and I was in the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a guy in the cafeteria who had his head shaved, and which was absolutely unique at that point. I mean, nobody had their head shaved in 1981 in a place like Boston.
Yeah.
And somebody introduced me to this person.
Mm-hmm.
I was, and I said, well, you know, what are you into? You know, like, what's this about? And he said, well, I'm into hardcore. And I said, hardcore, like what is that?
Yeah.
Like Joan Jett, Blondie.
Right.
This is literally what it said. Like Joan Jett, Blondie, the B-52s. Like I didn't have a reference point to it. He said, no, you ever hear of Black Flag? And I said, Black Flag? I said, you mean like the bug spray? You know, like he said, listen, you know, instead of me trying to explain this to you, why don't you just come with me this weekend? There's a show going on and you check it out. So that weekend we went to a place in downtown, a little bit farther downtown. We went to a place called the Media Workshop.
Yeah.
Which was like an art, sort of like a real ramshackle art space on Boylston Street near the Prudential Building. It was up on the 4th floor.
Okay.
And I went to my first hardcore show, and the band that was playing was the band whose shirt you're wearing right now, SSD Control.
Oh, okay.
So my first show was a SSD Control show in like late August, September of 1981, and there wasn't a lot of kids there at that point. There was probably 20 kids, 25 kids.
Yeah.
And people sort of like, you know, bouncing, you know, kind of slam dancing, if you want to call it that.
Right.
You know, and I kind of jumped in and I jumped right in. It was all kids my age. You know what I mean? It was kids my age, and it was a very non-threatening situation. And I jumped in, had some fun. And when the band finished playing, the guitar player took his guitar off and approached me and said, "Who are you? You know, where you from? What are you doing here?" And I, it was very non-threatening.
Yeah.
I sort of, said, "Hey, I'm up here now. I'm from New York, this and that." And I was kind of welcomed into the very small scene at the time. And I fell in and became one of the original people there in the SSD Control in the Boston crew. And, she kind of got into it soon after that and shaved my head and jumped right into it. So, but, that thing started going. I mean, it was a very exciting time to be involved in that music. In retrospect now, there's a certain perspective, but at the time it was very new, very unique, very fresh, and very exciting.
Yeah. So musically, was that the first band you saw at that show? Was it SSD or was there other? Yeah. So what did you think musically?
I saw SSD Control very early on, and the other Boston bands like Gangrene, Jerry's Kids, the FUs. I mean, and then right after that, This Is Boston, Not LA compilation came out, and I was a part of that whole thing. And the other bands came along after that, and then I started a band called the Mighty COs, and we were in the mix there for a while. And but yeah, I mean, what did I think about it musically?
Yeah, like coming from going to see Dead shows, and then all of a sudden being in this little.
Well, like I said, it was kids my age. And the fact that there wasn't any separation between band and audience sort of, circumvented any sort of, and I really wasn't that developed musically, as far as music theory goes. You know what I mean? I know I liked it. Certainly now one of the things about the Grateful Dead now is like I have a very good understanding of what they're doing musically now. I didn't have that. I don't think I had that until they stopped playing. You know, I mean, really okay, I understand what's happening here, you know, musically. But the hardcore thing really spoke to me because it was kids my age, and, you know, the ethos of it was, you know, everybody's welcome and everybody can do it. Get up, get out, make it happen. Whereas you know, the Grateful Dead thing was cool. You know, hey, let's get high and dance around. You know, that's cool. But the hardcore thing was, hey, you're a part of this, you know, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, it seemed like everyone had a job almost. Like this, everyone had a zine, or was a photographer.
Absolutely. It was very self-empowering, and everybody had a place, especially, you know, women, you know, if you weren't in a band, you start a fanzine, or you take some photos, or you promote some shows. Yeah. So it was very empowering for teenagers.
Yeah. Did you see any Dead shows up here when you were in school in Boston?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I've seen Dead show, dude. I've seen fucking Grateful Dead 140 times.
That's crazy.
So when I was up there in Boston, of course, we saw like Boston Garden shows, and then we would go to the Cumberland County Civic Arena in Portland, Maine. I remember Orono, Maine. Of course, you know, New Haven, Hartford. Where else in Boston? Oh, and then, you know, the whole other crazy story of when I was a freshman, Jerry Garcia band played the Orpheum Theater.
Oh yeah.
And whew, I tell you, the moral of the story here is, you know, never, how do I say it? You know, never be careful when you're carrying around 100 hits of Purple window paint, you know, because what happened was I went to the show and I took some Purple window paint, and I got so high I took more, and who knows what happened after that. But the crazy thing was I was high as a kite. Now, I was always really good under the influence of massive amounts of psychedelics. So in the middle of this show at the Orpheum Theater in Boston, Jerry Garcia band, where like literally the walls are melting, but I'm there with friends, and I'm in, you know, because even when I went up to Boston, there was a whole circuit of my friends that were touring with the Dead or Jerry Garcia band. So boom, Jerry Garcia band comes to town. I go to the show. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? You know, bunch of friends, you know, and in the middle of the freaking show is a fucking blackout.
Oh, really?
Like I'm like the whole world is melting, and the whole thing just went ooh. And oh boy. Yeah. And you know, I didn't understand what was going on, whatever. Yeah. And we went out, and they stopped, they ended the show. Everyone had to, you know, went out into the street, and there was a car burning in the middle of the street, and I was just, woo. So yeah, I saw a lot of shows up that way. I mean, a lot. You know?
Yeah. Because there was definitely a period in time where liking the Grateful Dead and punk rock was, you know, seen as a no-no, mostly by our like cooler than thou punk friends. The Deadheads are just like whatever. I don't know, like you listen to that crazy hardcore music or whatever, you know. But did you get pushback from any friends?
Yeah, there was. Well, for sure. You know, the Teen Idols.
Yeah. That song.
That song called Deadhead. You know. Yeah. Deadhead, take another. Deadhead, take another toke. Deadhead. You're a fucking joke. You know, friend of the devil who you're trying to kid. Friends of the devil are dead like Sid.
Yeah.
I'll be grateful when you're dead. I'll be grateful, but so don't stick around too long.
behind, trouble ahead. Only good deadhead is one that's dead. So don't think I rest along.
Yeah. Yo, my Grateful Dead friends loved that song. Like when we were in the van, like traveling from show to show, they'd be like, "Play that song again!" And like they thought it was the funniest fucking thing. Like they thought it was friggin' hilarious, you know. But well, one thing I learned early on in this whole thing, because I have my kind of Grateful Dead friends, and scene that I was a part of, like kind of for a couple years, going until the hardcore thing. So I get into the hardcore thing and I shave my head and I go to the Grateful Dead show and people like, wow, you know, you shaved your head. Like, wow, you know, like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, like what happened to the Drew Stone we used to know? Right. And then I go back, you know, to my hardcore friends and you're like, you went to a Grateful Dead concert? You know, they were like, wow, you know, like what happened to the Drew Stone we used to know?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I really, one thing I got from that pretty early on, probably I was 19 years old at the time, was, you know what? You're not going to please everybody.
Yeah, of
and
course.
Why bother?
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
do
matter.
Yourself. Yeah, do yourself. I learned right then, like, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm following my heart, because, you know, people aren't walking in my shoes. They don't know.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I got pushback from both sides. Absolutely pushback from both sides. What the fuck you doing? That shit sucks. A fucking punk shit is stupid. Or Grateful Dead, you know. You know, so I heard it from both sides, which you know, which was a lot. And I gotta say also, when as a hardcore guy with a shaved head, because I hook up with some of my Deadhead friends and go to a couple shows in a row and stuff, and kind of get back in the circuit. For there was nobody else out there like me. Nobody. I don't know. I know maybe someone went to a show or two, but I was on fucking tour, and I was, you know, show after show. There was nobody on tour that nobody even knew what this hardcore thing was. You know, I know now people like, oh yeah, or, you know, this and that, you know, but in 1981, 82, and even 83, I was out there at the Dead shows and I was alone. And sometimes it was tough. It was really tough. It was really tough sometimes because it was lonely and I didn't look the part. And, you know, everybody as a teenager, you want the same things, right? You want to go to shows, you want to meet girls, you want to get laid, you want to have a good time. And like, I sort of was very different looking, and, you know, so, but there, you know, I know there was a couple people that I know like, Greg Ginn from Black Flag and Henry Rollins. Like, I forgot where we were. It was a couple years later, but I saw them outside a show and I was like, wow. All right.
Yeah.
But on the East Coast, I didn't see
not as much.
I mean, there was a couple of friends of my Grateful Dead friends that were somewhat sympathetic. Like to the like punk thing. Like they were, I guess they were pretty progressive, and they're, you know, like, but you know, so I just kind of kept it separate. And,
Same here. Yeah.
And kind of kept it cool. But at the end of my run in Boston, because I ended up sort of, you know, giving up on school at the end of the school year in '83. The school year kind of ended. I lost my lease, and I had a van, and we got my van and like went out and saw a bunch of shows. And this is from April 9th, '83 to June 28th, '83. I saw 21 of 24 Dead shows in a row. So we went starting in Virginia all the way up the East Coast, and then we went out west, and then it ended. We went to the US Festival in '83. That's how it ended. like that whole, we went out west, we saw the Greek shows, and then we went to the US Festival, which is a whole nother friggin' story. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, in '83, I was firmly entrenched in the hardcore thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting in the van with a bunch of my Deadhead friends and going to see a bunch of Dead shows.
And so those were probably your first West Coast shows, right?
Yeah.
Different vibe, right?
Oh yeah.
Really?
I saw them at the Greek Theater.
Yeah. Okay.
A couple of, I think 3 nights at the Greek. We actually drove out there to see them play. For some reason, I don't know. For some reason, I seem to think it was Vegas or something, and the shows got canceled.
Oh, okay.
Like, as we were on the way out there.
Yeah.
And so we ended up like going up to like Eugene, Oregon for a couple weeks and hanging out with some friends of ours. And then we drove down to the Greek shows. And then, we went to the US Festival after that. But, and while I was out there, I told the story on my show the other day. I had Chris Reese, the drummer for Social Distortion.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
I told him a story that in '83, then I was at the place called the Stone in San Francisco.
Okay.
And I was at a Jerry Garcia band show at the Stone. And, Garcia was playing his like friggin', fucking, 45-minute fucking sugary. It was. I think by then, by '83, I was for sure, like that run. It was really sort of running its course a little bit for me. But they were really not doing. It was sort of very routine. So, it was a night we wanted something to do. We went to see the Stone. Garcia was playing in some club, and I was so bored. I like wandered outside, and I'm standing outside, and I look across the street, and I see some punk and hardcore kids down the block. And I go down the block and I'm like, wow, punk hardcore show. Okay, cool. I pay, I go up these stairs. I sit in the balcony. I watch a couple bands play. One band that I saw that was really, really good turned out to be a band called Social Distortion.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's crazy.
And that was interesting.
Yeah.
And the place turned out to be a place called the On Broadway in
I've heard of that
San
place.
Francisco. Yeah. So, that was an interesting thing along the way. But I think by then things were waning. Like we went and did the Midwest, saw the Dead in the Midwest. This is, I think at this point, the Grateful Dead's popularity really wasn't much.
Yeah, of course.
1983 in the Midwest, they were playing like half full hockey arenas.
Yeah.
I remember, I think St. Paul and Madison, like the place was like just half full. Right. The shows were really lackluster. And we used to go to shows and basically we had a running card game. We had a running card game. We'd sit in the hall and play cards and it's sort of, the shows were a bit lackluster. When the Grateful Dead broke out St. Stephen, like in 1982 at Madison Square Garden, I was fucking playing cards in the hall.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. And then what? I was it was like, holy shit. And we timed it, and 2 nights later, or 2 or 3 nights later, we were up in Hartford.
Yeah.
And we were right there. I was totally zeroed in, and they played St. Stephen again.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Yeah. And I was like totally great seats, zeroed in. So, so that was good. But also, at this point, I got to say that I think, Garcia, was really succumbing to his drug addiction.
Yeah.
And
his vocals.
It was noticeable. They were starting to fade. I know they had a couple of resurgences in '89 but like '83, '84, to me they were losing, definitely losing luster.
Yeah. 89 is when I started going, and
it was a great year.
Yeah, I got to see a bunch of shows with Brent Midland, thankfully, because after him I just kind of wasn't. I saw the Giant Stadium in, I think, '91. They had Bruce Hornsby. Traffic. I think Traffic opened, and that was good. But when they didn't have Hornsby and it was just Vince Welnick, we went to those first MSG shows after Brent died, and it wasn't the same without Midland. I thought they just kind of went downhill. I felt.
listen, I'd always go see them. Like I said, like being in New York, it was like I had a lot of opportunities, and also like I was always a very good counterfeiter, and you know, we used to counterfeit tickets. Like me and my crew, you know, we you know, back then counterfeiting tickets was as easy as you get a ticket, you go make a color Xerox copy, you cut it out, you put a blank in the middle, you perforate it, you know, like I still have a bunch of them. But you know, so going to a show, we never paid for shows. So I mean, you go make some counterfeit tickets and give them out to your friends, and we go to the show. So I saw, you know, they come to New York, I would go. It got to the point towards the end where I'd go once, twice, but I saw them play. I saw 29 shows after Brent died.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, and my first show was at Giant Stadium in '78. My last show was at Giant Stadium in 1995. And it was horrible. I mean, and at this point, I think it's well documented. That was like a show where Garcia like kept turning his volume down, and you know, it was very apparent that something was wrong.
Yeah, I saw him in Vermont on that same run, and it was just
Highgate.
Yeah, Highgate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where our friend Eric Ziegenfeld passed away.
Oh, really?
He was the guy that reported on MTV. Yeah, Eric Ziegenfeld.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Eric Ziegenfeld. We grew up with him in New York. He was up at Highgate. He died. He was young. I think he was 30 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, the last time I saw them was such a bitter disappointment, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was dark.
Really, it was bad, man. But listen, I knew the thing about like Garcia and his drug problem was while he was alive, it wasn't spoken about. And you know, so many people were sort of under this illusion, this fantasy. Meanwhile, you know, I sort of knew the score because I kind of what's a soft way of putting it. We sort of knew what was going on. We knew people that were involved in those particular drugs, people were supplying, you know, and all that. I remember one show standing around waiting for the Dead to play because the word was, yo, so-and-so went into the city to cop Jerry some dope. And that's what they're waiting on. And there was like a ridiculous wait time, you know, and then they finally, so we knew he was on stage and we knew he was dope. We knew he was doped up. We knew what was going on. And yeah, it was really tragic, man, because he was only 53 years old when he passed away. I mean, you look at pictures of him, he looks like he was 70.
Yeah, I know. I always kind of forget that.
Yeah. And his skills deteriorated.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really, really kind of sad, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The scene got kind of dark around there just because the sets it was so routine. It was like the same, and just that synthesizer and just some of they were doing like Baba O'Reilly and I Fought the Law, and I was like, what are you guys doing? This is
and there was a lot of no, you know, I've learned to sort of really appreciate a couple of those things now, like some of those new songs at the time, which I couldn't stand. Now, like, you know, So Many Roads.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think is really great. I like the stuff that Phil sang, like If the Shoe Fits, and it sort of skidded, you know. And then at the time also, you know, things changed for me. When I came back from Boston, I started a band called The High and the Mighty, and had a little success with that. And then, of course, I joined Antidote. And then, you know, I was at Antidote for many years through a lot of changes and, you know, putting records out and doing stuff. And then my film career took off. You know, I had a whole career doing music videos and a whole career doing, you know, extreme sports films. But that came later. But the music videos, I was doing the music videos in the early 90s, you know, and but the Grateful Dead were always there for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd always be able, oh shit, you know, it was always nice to check in every now and then.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah, they
that's
were
what
still kind of, it was happy that they were still sort of out there doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it was. And you go and you know, I remember seeing them play in they played Madison Square Garden. I think it was in '94. And they came out for the encore, and Bob Dylan was with them. And they did Rainy Day Women.
Oh,
And
wow.
it brought the house down. It was great.
Yeah.
So, you know, there were still, you know, as I think I heard Phil Les say, or there were still flashes of brilliance every now and then.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it wasn't, you know, the days of seeing like, wow. We used to have a saying back then, it's not what they play, it's how they played it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that used to really hold true. I mean, we'd see shows that like were like, you look at the set list and it would seem very routine.
Yeah.
But wow, that was a great show.
Yeah, when you actually hear it. Yeah.
Well, you know, it's not what they play, it's how they played it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you know, the hardcore thing, you know, it really turned out to be it's what I do now for a living.
Yeah. I know. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Have you tried to convert any hardcore people to the Grateful Dead?
Yeah. I mean, through the
not convert them, but turn them on. Like, what would you play someone if you were going to try to? I always use Reckoning. That album, I think, is because it's just nice acoustic. You know.
Well, I think that for me, I think what resonates, I think like Ripple and Box of Rain, you know, because that stuff, like I said before, is just timeless Americana.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to the soul.
Yeah.
Box of Rain, Ripple, and you know, a lot of those Garcia, Hunter, you know, shuffles like, you know, Loser or China Doll, Ramble and Rose, you know, those are that to me is Americana as Minor Threat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Minor Threat to me is Americana.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it is. I mean, and I'm a musical archaeologist. At this point, I'm a musical historian. I've made multiple films, you know, dealing with it. And, you know, the same way that I consider the Grateful Dead Americana, I consider, you know, Minor Threat Americana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But, you know, the Grateful Dead thing that's hard is people are always thrown off by the crowd.
That's what I think that's
like, fuck those dirty hippies, which is understandable. People get thrown off by the hardcore. They fuck those racist skinheads.
Right.
Meanwhile, like, whoa. You know, like, whoa. Right. So, but those, to me, like, you know, Ripple, Box of Rain, like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great songwriting and you know, I mean, to the whole American Beauty record and Working Man's Dead. Yeah, those songs are incredible. Definitely. Incredible. And I mean, you think about hardcore, like the first Grateful Dead album is hardcore.
Oh yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. That shit's, some of that stuff is so fast. It's like a hardcore beat, you know?
I know, right?
You know, it's like, you know, but you know, this. So yeah, that's I brought bandmates to shows, and people, you know, some people would dig it. Yeah. You know, some people would be like, right. You know, but then again, by the time I was bringing some of those people to shows, it was like mid to late 80s. And
like, so it wasn't great. Yeah, I know.
You know, I mean, what was the last great thing that, you know, the Dead did? You know.
Yeah. So now post Grateful Dead, have you checked out Dead and Company? Have you gone into that?
Yeah. I think I've seen like pretty much every sort of incarnation since the Dead ceased in '95. Yeah. If I remember correctly, I saw the other ones.
The other ones, yeah.
I saw the Dead. Yeah. I saw Further. Yeah. And I saw Dead and Company. And like my take on it is, I consider it a celebration of the music.
Exactly.
And I don't really get hung up on, Jerry, sure, that's cool, but I'm happy to see the music still out there and people enjoying it.
Yeah.
And one thing that I really do my best not to do is be one of those people that's like, oh, back in the day,
of course,
the real thing.
I know.
Like, I can't stand that, and you get a lot of that. You get a lot of that in hardcore.
In
like,
hardcore, definitely,
and it's that fucking shit is lame.
Yeah, I hate that. I bet you can't name 3 Black Flag songs. These weren't.
Yeah, and hey, man, for some kid out there today, the Dead and Company is like the cat's meow.
Yeah, I'd be psyched to see that.
Yeah, good for him. For some kid today, seeing that hardcore band that you slag off, that's, these are the good times right now. I'm not interested in the past too much, man. And it might sound odd coming from a documentary filmmaker, but I'm more interested in what's happening today and looking down the road to tomorrow, and so, I've seen all those incarnations. I'm not crazy about it. Some have been better than others.
Yeah.
I don't go running out to see them when they come to town.
Yeah.
If someone has a ticket or it's available or I get on if someone puts me on the guest list or something, I'll go. But I'm not gonna like go out and spend $150 on a Dead and Company ticket.
Right. I know. Yeah.
But I'm a John Mayer fan. I think John Mayer is great. He's a great guitar player. He's a great front man. I respect him for delving into the rich history of Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, and really, being a fan, and I'm a big, and I'm a big fan of Bob Weir. I mean, there were times in the 80s where I saw Bob Weir carry that band.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely carry that band. I mean, I saw it with my own eyes. On nights where Garcia was out on the tiles.
He was somewhere else.
Yeah, he just wasn't. And I saw Weir carry that band, and on his shoulders, man.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I don't knock it. Look, even like I'm not a big Fish fan.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I don't like Fish at all.
Okay.
I went and saw them play, and I thought it was horrible.
Yeah. Okay.
Which might sound weird, right? Like, I like the Dead.
Yeah. it's different though, definitely.
It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't like the guy's guitar tone. I thought he had like a real soft, weak ass guitar tone. I thought it was like really weak. The whole thing was weak, So, but whatever, people love them. Good for them, And I'm happy to see that the music is still celebrated and people are still doing, once in a while they'll do a cool thing. Like Weir played acoustic. I went and saw that. That was great. What I thought was good out of all those? I liked Further. I thought it was really good because they had that guy Joe Russo on drums.
Yeah. Have you seen his band? His Grateful Dead cover band is amazing.
I have not seen it.
Yeah,
I've heard really good things.
Yeah.
I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, they're good.
But I think what the Dead and Company are lacking is tempo. The songs are so incredibly slow.
Yeah.
They're brutal. They're brutal.
I know. I have the unpopular opinion of 74 is a lot of people's favorite year, but I think when Mickey Hart wasn't in the band and it was just Kreutzmann, it was so tight and just there's something about that sound. So I always liked them with one drummer. Of course, everything. I like all the stuff, but
yeah. Well, he left the band in like 71 and wait, Mickey Hart left
72-ish, I think 72.
I think Hart left, I think 77, 71, and then came back when they but yeah, there's some 74, great, was great. 73,
yeah.
All that stuff, man.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
If you could interview a living member of the band right now, who would you interview? I'm imagining it's Weir.
No, I think we're sort of listen, I'd love to talk to any of them.
Yeah,
but I think I'd like to talk to Phil Lesh.
Yeah.
Just because he was next to Garcia. I think he was a real pioneer early on. I think he really was a real pioneer. Another thing, another great moment was I saw them play at Laguna Seca Racetrack
nice.
in '87, and after the show was over, they let everybody back in to shoot the Touch of Grey video, and in between shows, and I was there for that, like right up against the thing, and that was a fun night.
That's awesome.
That was a really fun night,
Yeah.
and also when in 1981. Once again, we slept out for tickets.
Yeah.
And this, I think we slept out in Grand Central Station.
Oh, nice.
And we ended up getting first row center tickets for both shows at Madison Square Garden.
Oh, that's crazy.
1981.
Yeah.
And this was when, of course, you could stand on your seat and lean over and put your hands on the stage.
On the actual stage, yeah.
Yeah. And so, there was a lot of great moments. And also the skill set that I learned on the road with the Grateful Dead came really handy in later life when I was a tour manager for hardcore bands.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, nice. So so that just how to live.
Oh yeah, how to live on the road and like, wait a second, Drew, how the fuck do you know this butt fuck town?
Right.
Oh. Yeah, I was here with the Grateful Dead. Awesome. Like we pull into places and oh yeah, all right.
Yeah.
From Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon, and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
But being out on the road with a hardcore band, I had that skill set. Checking into hotel rooms with 15 people.
Right.
Driving.
Yeah.
How to eat. How to get by on $1 a day.
Yeah.
And a lot of that skill set came about from, hardcoring it, on tour with the Grateful Dead. Cause, back when we were doing that as a young teenager, we were really roughing it, man.
Oh yeah. And like you were saying with the like waiting out for tickets, that's something, and not to be like we were just saying like the back in the day, but I don't think kids know about. Yeah, you would literally you would sit in a parking lot for 3 days to wait for tickets outside. You didn't have a phone to sit on and do it. You would send Drew to go get beer. Or,
for sure. Yeah, like I said, here in New York City, I remember more than once we slept out in Grand Central Station. I think. We did it for the Grateful Dead. I remember doing it for the Rolling Stones when they came back in '81 for that '81 tour. And we slept out for tickets, and like you're in Grand Central Station at 4 a.m. riding your skateboard around, but the Radio City thing was a big deal. I mean, we stayed out for a couple days, and like I said, there's people, friends I met there that still friends to this day. But eventually, I figured out how to get around the whole ticket thing, because I was always, like I said, a really good counterfeiter.
Right.
And once we sort of revved up that machine, we were making tickets for everything. We were like, hey, who's coming to town? But the Dead was always like that. That was always that was always a blast, Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, the hardcore thing too. They ran head to head, and what's interesting all these years later is, what the tie that binds it together is community and culture.
Yeah. And you saw sort of literally the beginning of hardcore in Boston, which is, one of the first cities where that sort of started happening in America.
Yeah, and then early on, right off the bat, I saw Minor Threat, I saw Dead Kennedys, I saw Black Flag, the Misfits. I mean, I saw all these bands in '81 and '82. We loved Minor Threat. I mean, we loved the Bad Brains, And
it's crazy that those bands are all household names, like the Grateful Dead.
Right.
And now, you met all those people, obviously, back in the day.
It was funny because later on, you go to shows and you see somebody like, Jerry Williams, God rest his soul, who recorded the Bad Brains demo, not the Bad Brains cassette tape on Roar. like I used to bump into him at Dead shows in New York. Like, yo, what's up, Jerry? You know, like, and in later years, like in the later 80s and 90s, I'd bump into people here in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, I won't tell anybody.
I know. I was just gonna say, can you out me? Like, is Vinny Stigma a secret?
No, Vinny Stigma. I used to bump into Howie Abrams.
Oh, okay.
At a lot of shows here in New York. You know, he who lives right across the street from me now.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But you know that it all ended so tragically too for them, man, which is so sad. You know, it's like the way it's sort of, damn, you know, it's Garcia just couldn't conquer his demons, and you know, it just sort of, damn, you know,
it sputtered out. It was sad. Yeah,
it sputtered out, and they still had a lot of greatness in them.
Yeah,
you know, those last bunch of songs they had. It's so sad that they didn't get a chance to record them. There was another great album there. There was another, those songs are a Lazy River Road and you know, a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah. Eternity, that weird
Eternity and Lazy River Road. I like the Vince Welnick song, Way to Go Home.
Yeah, I love
that.
In the Rain. I actually like Samba in the Rain. I thought that was it.
That one, pretty good. That was, you know, but you know, I love Way to Go Home, and of course, I love you know, So Many Roads.
Oh, So Many Roads,
you know,
was great.
I mean, you know, Days Between is a bit rough for me.
Yeah,
I never really could connect to that one, but
yeah.
There was still work to do. It's just amazing he died so young at 53 years old. You know, because I'm older than that now.
Yeah.
It's just to think, wow, they all died so young. Jerry Garcia, Joe Strummer, you know, Dee Dee Ramone, all these guys, they all died 51, 53.
Yeah, I know. Once we start passing that age, I think that same thing too. I'm 51, and
it's happening in the hardcore world now.
Yeah,
a lot of people,
I know.
A lot of people that haven't you know, taken care of themselves.
Yeah, I know.
Are sadly, you know, passing away.
Yeah,
and you know, so. It's a crazy world, man.
Yeah. Well, we still have this community, and you know, it's such
Absolutely.
a small, it's so weird how small, like it really is like a small, you know, like we randomly met at that, you know, a couple of years ago, and at FU's all ages screening.
My film was screening, right?
Yeah, the film was screening. Yeah. And Dwayne Lucia spoke, and the FU's played in front of like 6 people, and it was like a giant. They were going to start having shows there. That was the only thing they ever had there, I think.
Yeah. But hey, I want to say to anybody out there listening, listen to my show. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. It streams on Facebook, on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube on my channel, Stone Films NYC. Also, my films, the New York Hardcore Chronicles film, XXX All Ages, XXX the Boston Hardcore film, and the New York Hardcore Chronicles film 1.5 are on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. So, who the fuck is that guy too? That was a great movie.
Well, the other film I directed, Who the Fuck Is That Guy? The Fabulous Journey of Michael Alago. Just finished a 3-year run on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's actually, we're in the process of striking another distribution deal. So that should be back up pretty soon. And I'm finishing a new film right now called The Jews and the Blues.
Oh, awesome.
Which is my musical journey. I go to the Middle East.
Oh,
and
awesome.
It's really kind of connected with what we're talking about. You know, it's like, I'm a musical archaeologist, and it's like I'm searching for the sound, you know.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely. I highly recommend Drew's Chronicle. The Brian Baker one you did was amazing.
Great.
He's just a cool dude, and
just
hearing some of the stories these guys tell is.
I think what you know, I'm very fortunate that the show's a success, and a lot of the reasons because I am, you know, I'm connected to these people, you know, through all the years of the hardcore community, from having a career doing music videos and being a tour manager and being in a band. And I have I've crossed paths and worked with a lot of these people and consider them friends. And the pandemic kind of presented this opportunity.
Yeah.
I sort of backed into it. It wasn't part of my master plan, but it has been very successful, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Cool, man. Thank you again for doing this, Drew.
Well, thank you, man. I do not. This is the first time I've been granted the opportunity to talk about my Grateful Dead life. This is the first
awesome.
time.
I'm
so
glad,
I really
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Awesome. Cool.
All right. Man. Thanks everybody out there for supporting me in my dream to be an independent filmmaker. I'll talk to you all soon.
Cheers, man.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.